UNGUBANI.
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 UNGUBANI. UNGUBANI.
Echoes of Urban Psychosis.
Echoes of Urban Psychosis.
Echoes of Urban Psychosis.
Echoes of Urban Psychosis.
And identity.
And identity.
And identity.
And identity.
This is for those who walked so that we can run, those who are silenced and are still silenced whilst navigating spaces that were never designed for them. My name is Aspirations and this is my co-host, and together we are The Unclaimed. Our podcast is called The Silent Transactions of Navigating and Claiming Space in Informal Economies. It will include principal objects such as
homelessness,
street vendors,
informal land occupation, and
temporary street markets.
My name is Khalifa Namerha,
And I'm Elizabeth Kruger.
and in our podcast we will be exploring the urban planning implications of spatial fortification and class segregation.
As seen in the fictional cities of Ba Sing Se from Avatar The Last Airbender and The Wall of Three from the anime Attack on Titans.
Our topic deals with the digital navigation of women's urban safety, which is really about understanding women's mobility and the extent that they have independence in urban spaces, which is why we named our podcast Her Streets.
But also the importance of storytelling the personal experiences of urban safety, and also the importance of understanding the role of technology in urban spaces, which is a big issue in the constraints of our agency.
So our podcast is titled UNGUBANI Ka Mirunzi Ambela Padla, which means justice in the shadow of progress. That is when it directly translated from Achivenda. So while development, are always celebrated as progress, they often cast a long shadow where justice is now overlooked, hidden.
This is relevant because in South Africa, there is a need to progress while addressing past injustices, and that is what our podcast is about.
I am Nota Ngosi, and this is our podcast, Imbogodo Women in the City, which delves into the lives of women who move through our cities quietly yet powerfully, single mothers and domestic workers whose voices are often unheard in the mainstream planning conversations.
I am Lerato Matapo. Our podcast, In Bogoto, Women in the City, invites you on an urban and regional planning journey where we attempt to amplify the voices of women navigating urban spaces. We ask how we can make our cities more inclusive and navigate any existing barriers to inclusivity.
I am Thokozile Beshena. We are doing a podcast on justice and the life inside hijacked buildings in Johannesburg. What we are asking is, what does life look like when the law and survival clash?
We are asking residents and people responsible for moving them out whether the process of eviction is fair and just.
Our podcast will unpack what it means to have the right to the city.
As the rise of the usage of social media has increased, exposing us to different parts and spaces of the world, the ways in which we think and use urban spaces has also changed. Izwi Lamasiyo, a podcast that is particularly interested in exploring the ways in which social media has influenced the way we create, think, and exist in space.
You're listening to Izwi Lamasiyo, a critical exploration of spatial governance in the post-apartheid Johannesburg. Looking at works such as Discipline and Punishment by Michel Foucault, this helps us understand gentrification as a modality of neo-colonial planning, where you find out that modernization conceals exclusion of wages and structure urban life. And within that sense, the work helps us to understand how planning spatially helps us monitor how people are shaped by behaviors within the spaces that we live in.
Our podcast is called The Gods and the Algorithms, where we explore cities through an intersectional lens.
We delve into the lived experiences of women and queer people, unpacking how planning affects their everyday lives.
This is where feminism meets the city.
Intersectionality, space, identity, expression, structuralism, decoloniality, Samunan, Kamalam all those words will make sense when you see our podcast. See you soon.
Hi guys, I'm Sneh and this is Bantla, and our podcast is titled Modern E-Screens, Digital Spaces as a Multi-Varied Platform for Enterprise, Entertainment, as well as the New Public Realm.
We will explore how digital space acts as a multi-functional space that allows for marketing, business hub, as well as entertainment.
In addition to that, we will look at how the social, economic, and cultural norms enforce the space to now be the portion of engagement which is now the new public realm.
My name is Anita Mukesi.
And this is Bumifiti Kumalo. Welcome to Indigenous Urban Futures.
Our podcast will be exploring the indigenous knowledge systems, practices, and spatial understanding that will help us transform our thinking towards cities. In each episode, we will be unpacking the limits of dominant urban theory and planning, and we'll be looking into indigenous visions.
This will help us to challenge extractive and exclusionary development. In this series, we'll look at and center everything around land-based and decolonial urban planning. This will help us to create urban futures that are more just and radically different. Placemaking in the Algorithm, a podcast where we explore how food and fashion influences on TikTok are reshaping our cities, digitally, emotionally, and aesthetically.
This is not just about social media, it's about how identity is performed and space is produced on the screen, in the streets, and the spaces in between.
Inspired by the question UNGUBANI and the echoes of urban psychosis and identity, we pose the question, what happens when the city is the stage and the algorithm directs the performance?
We're your hosts. I'm Enrique, and this is Awetu. Together, we'll navigate a city curated by style, shaped by taste, and claimed through identity.
This is digital placemaking.
In a city built on fragments of apartheid planning, of ignored voices, of interrupted dreams, Black South African youth continue to move, not just through streets, but through histories, through systems not made for them.
This is a story of resilience, of how young people reinvent space, claim visibility, and center their bodies in dance, in sports, in gathering, as acts of everyday survival.
Through the lens of Black urbanism, we ask, what does it mean to move when your city forgets you? What does it mean to stay in motion, even when the ground beneath you disappears?
This is not just about physical movement, it's about carving space. It's about life, lived, improvised, and undefeated. This is Healing Grounds.